Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. I'm sitting here with Lars Deutsch. How are you?
Nice.
And
how are you?
I'm marvelous. And we were just talking about a second ago, this is Magic Corridor Studios.
Yeah, because I record in my corridor. That's where that came from.
We met at Sunset Sound a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
At Craig's memorial.
Yeah.
We talked for a while. We talked probably for about an hour or so. And when I found out that you had done a lot of really great music, and then I said, well, let's come and film you in your studio. And then you said, but my studio where I make all this great music is really just like a bedroom with some speakers in it, and it's very modest. And I was like, perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. My good friend Graham Coxon, who does a lot of very successful stuff, has a setup just like this. And I just started thinking to myself, we need to expose the reality of what it's like to be a professional and make a living.
Yeah. I know somebody who did sound design for Inception, Interstellar, The Lion King, and all of this. And when you do 90% of the work at Warner's is done in a room that is much smaller than this with worse speakers than this. And when I found that out, I was like, okay, whatever.
You're right. I mean, if we go to Capitol, not the studio, but you go to Capitol Records, I cut a vocal for Tori Kelly on a song which ended up being a big hit in Europe with Professor Green. For those people in Europe will know who he is. We did it in one of their little studios, which was exactly that. It was a grey carpeted, office building it had some nice gear in it, but there was nothing special about the room. It was just the gear that was put in there.
Next time I'm going to Germany, I'm going to bring some stuff to treat the room a little more. But the way I work is I work quietly on these speakers. When I'm done, I crank up the volume a little bit, and then I have two very different pairs of headphones there, and I run the mix or whatever I'm working on through there. And then my kind of secret weapon is the JH Audio. These are molded to my ears. There's like 6 amps in each side of them, and they're killer. They're killer. And they are kind of when I put them in, that's the perfect sound stage. And that sounds better than any mastering studio or something it's super intense.
So you're releasing on IEMs, in-ear monitors?
It's kind of the last pass, because one thing that I noticed with these, they're so precise. If I listen to a hit record, I can hear, I heard phasing in a CR record on these that I didn't hear anywhere else or something. Between that, I'm okay working my setup. I'm happy working here. And the most important thing is there's a window there, which is, I'm a composer first, so I can have noise until I go into final mix or until I mix for somebody. So I can open the window and I have sunlight, and I cannot be in a room where there's no window. I cannot work in a room. That's not gonna.
I understand.
Yeah. So this is where the magic has been happening for like 9 years now.
In 9 years, how many commercials?
I've done 300 films and commercials. About most of them as a composer, a lot of them as a composer, and a lot of things are now where I kind of I learned mixing while composing, and now this stuff in November I did a big international Intel commercial here, and that was just a mix. But so everything here. I don't have a subwoofer, so if I do a bigger project or something, I usually go somewhere and just run it once or twice to see how it works. We also have a car now that is that the subwoofer is a little bit on the strong side. That's also a good place to check it.
Yeah, absolutely. So occasional car tests as well.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your process. So you've got 2 pairs of headphones I see over here.
Yeah.
You've got the AKGs.
The Quincy Jones, it's the 701 or 702, and this is the Quincy Jones signature. It was just...
Q701.
Yeah, I don't know how they're different.
Austrian, obviously.
And that's just the regular biodynamic
DT770s,
which I really, really like. And especially with the Dragonfly, or something, if these are a little mellow and boxed in, if you have something that is a little nervous or too much high end, it's a good balance. Mm-hmm. So if you make it sound good on those,
Well, in the UK, in England, I grew up on the DT100s. Remember those? The white ones? I mean, those are in every studio. We have 4 pairs in our studio.
I mean, they are great. These are open, so you can't use them for recording or for serious recording. I use those for recording as well, but I like the, open, close, as much contrast as you can possibly get. And then between the speakers, this and the in-ears, I got a pretty good idea how it translates.
When you're working just do you stay on speakers?
It depends. For composition, I like to be on the speakers. For mixing, I do a lot of stuff in headphones. I also start really early in the morning. So the first 2 hours or so of the day are on headphones.
How early is early?
5, 6.
Great.
Depends
on... That's early?
Yeah. Yeah, it depends. I kind of I love the home setup because I wake up with an idea or with something that I like, working on something. I got this far and still I stopped working the day before. And when I wake up the next morning, I'm excited and motivated, and I just go in here and I cannot I cannot blast anything at 5:30 in the morning. So
let's get into some specifics here. So that over here, this keyboard over here.
Yeah, Nectar P6. I wanted something with some controllers and a fader. Honestly, I never use it. I use it to play, but I don't use the pad. I don't use the fader or anything.
But you're triggering sounds on the keyboard. You're playing.
I play on the keyboard. Yeah. What you cannot see, there's a piano, like an e-piano over there, which I'm very happy that I have this, because one of my things is I want to do stuff away from the computer as much as possible. And so if it's just about figuring out chords or certain things, I do that over there. And then I go here and play it in there. I don't use the pads. I don't use the fader. I got this, didn't use it for a long time. And then I saw a video with Michael Brauer mixing X's and O's and how he really performs the guitar on the fader as well and does all this active stuff. And since I saw that video, I'm using it. Antelope Audio over there.
And that is your I/O?
Yeah, so that's the Zen Tour, and I have the Zen Studio Plus. I had an Apogee Duet for a while, and I like things that are light and easy. And the Apogee Duet 2, one thing that I love about it, it just always works, and it's always there. And even if you overdrive it, it kind of somehow makes it sound okay. And
it's that soft limiting.
The soft limit. And I think for most people, this thing is perfectly fine. I met one of the Antelope guys, Marcel, who had the mastering studio, and he played something to me, and he said, this is of iTunes, and this is with Antelope clocking, and this is without Antelope clocking. And it was a mixed, finished song. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then he said, oh, you want to play one of your mixes? And then I, played around with this. I got this, played around with it for a bit.
The Zen Tour, yeah.
The Zen Tour, and then my Zen Tour broke. And I got the Apogee back out. And I felt how the beat and everything just gets fuzzier with a Duet than it is with this. This is crisper and nicer. And one thing that I noticed that I produced an audiobook while this broke. The difference between these preamps and this input and the Apogee was pretty strong. With the Antelope, it sounds like you're there. The vocal chain, there's the
DMP.
Yeah,
I love those.
Brand new edition here is for this project is we have a U67 reissue.
Beautiful.
And the preamp makes quite the difference. I have to say though, because a lot of people will watch this that don't want to spend $8,000 on a vocal chain.
Sure.
I used the Rode K2 before.
For how long?
Basically almost everything I've done.
So most of the 300 was done on a Rode K2?
Yeah. And one thing that I noticed was that for me, always when I say something that's kind of stupid, that's very obvious for you, keep in mind I'm a composer first, or started as a composer. When I figured out how to really, really work with masking or not masking voices, that made much bigger difference than the microphone. So while this is a great microphone, if you know a little bit what you do in mixing with a K2, you can do anything still, or with a less expensive microphone.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the biggest difference I suppose you've noticed probably between the cheaper mic and the more expensive is you're probably not de-essing as much.
Yeah, and one reason why we did a microphone shootout with a specific artist, and one thing I love 3D separation, and the idea was that in this album is all this turmoil, sharp edges, and sometimes the voice still stands by itself. So we have a song that's really dark, where she's almost whispering, but we have big guitars and big drums going on at the same time.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and it's the idea is that you listen, the idea is she needs to be right here with you. And that microphone is, I don't know, like it's amazing. We did the tests with like at Vintage Audio King with all the mics they had. And yeah, we didn't know which one would win. I was kind of hoping it would be a cheaper one, but no, this one won, yeah.
So what are these speakers? They're the SE Monroes.
So yeah, they used to be SE, and then Monroe split ways, and then they were called Monroe Sonic Eggs. To my knowledge, they stopped making them like 2 years ago. I love the 3D separation. These give me a lot of detail without being fatiguing. So I really, really like them. And if they would ever break, I would hunt down another pair. Absolutely. The one thing that I had to learn with these is because they do 3D so well. I did a mix for something, and it was perfect here. And then I went in the car, and like the lead vocal and some of the backgrounds just kind of, they were on top of each other, because these speakers they separate. And so I kind of cannot trust them all the way, because they're it's so nice that every now and then I need to check with something that doesn't do that. But yeah, I love the sound, and I had them for, I don't know, 7-8 years or something now.
So I see guitars laying around. I see a rather lovely Strat. I'm going to reach over and grab it. Yeah. But you told me how much you paid for it, and I'm very, very, very envious.
Yeah, it's something like $450, because the shop that was closing said half price on everything outside, and they kind of forgot to say excluding certain items. So This one was on sale before, and then I paid half of the sale price. And it's
gorgeous.
So there's a Collins acoustic guitar. I'm sure you've had like a similar experience. You have a less expensive acoustic guitar, and you spend half a day EQing, and it never sounds right. And you have the right acoustic guitar, and it just works. So to my knowledge, an acoustic guitar is the one thing where there's no deal. Having said that, this is considered to be the bargain of the kind of like custom shop kind of thing. So
how much was it?
This was $4,000.
Ooh, bargain.
Well,
I know what you mean that.
I wouldn't be surprised if you need to spend twice the money on a Martin to get a similar quality guitar, because the $4,000 Martin doesn't sound like this.
It's gorgeous.
What was interesting for me with the Strat was I would play with this artist, and we had a ballad with a lot of open chords higher up on the fret, and they sounded beautiful on the Collins, and then we moved to full band, and I picked up the Strat, and it was tuned, and I played the first chord, and it felt so incredibly out of tune and on stage. And I was a lecturer for the Bachelor of Film Music at the MI for a while, and which has like some benefit, which is like, you just go to the head of the guitar department and tell him this story. And this guy said, "Oh, no, that's a Strat. They're never in tune." I was like, "Oh, that's an interesting comment. So what if I buy a custom shop?" No. There's nobody in the world that can buy you a Strat that is in tune. It's like, okay, that's... I love the Collins, and I've done so much research before I bought them. It was between Santa Cruz and the Collins. And I'm so happy with this. And yeah.
Were you primarily a guitar player, or were you a keyboard player? What was how did you get here?
Well, I mean, I'm really pen and paper composer first. That's the thing, but like guitar has always been my instrument.
That was your instrument. Great.
And all the like rock and metal stuff you can imagine when you're like 15. I've done it all.
Like who?
Like there's really fantastic pictures of me with hair all the way to my ass. And so I really liked Sabotage at the time. And crazy guitar player who died far too young, but I was very lucky to meet him after a show and talk. That was really cool. And yeah, then all kinds of stuff like Overkill, and then a lot of the German metal bands, and And then I had the Dynamo Festival in Holland.
Yes.
So I think I went for the third time in a row, and I kind of like something didn't gel with me. I wasn't so excited. And on the way back to my tent from the stage, I heard a Heather Nova, like the Heather Nova's one hit, and I was listening to that, and I was like, I think maybe it's time for a change. And just like that, I kind of like, I still love like distorted guitars. I like loud drums, but it's kind of, I don't know, like I just needed a different color. So this is a project I really like. 15 years ago, I was in a CD store in Cologne, and they had these signs everywhere, biggest CD store on the planet. And so just atonal classical music, current atonal classical music was as big as usually a CD department is. Hundreds of thousands of CDs. So walking around there, I was thinking there's really no more point to make any music unless it's new, different, or special or something like this. And one thing for me is I get bored really easily and I want to do something that pushes, that works for an audience, but that where there's a challenge with something interesting. So this one's called Reinvent Yourself, and it has all of this kind of, growing pains. So I only use synthesizers on these. Most of what you hear is Hive, UE, synth, which I really, really like. So basically this is kind of like almost kind of punky kind of stuff with synthesizers over edgy images.
Great.
So
invent yourself and then reinvent yourself. Don't swim in the same slough and stay out of the clutches of mediocrity. Change your tone and shape so often that they can never categorize you. Reinvigorate yourself and accept what is. But only on the terms that you have invented and reinvented. Be self-taught and reinvent your life because you must. It is your life, and its history and the present belong only to you.
Couple of things with this. First of all, there's a moment when she kicks a shopping cart, which is me doing like a filter sweep. It's not the actual sound of that, and I'm very proud of that. I go, and it sounds like it's the actual sound of the.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
The other stuff with this is that there's an actual composition behind that with like polytonality and all of this weird. So there's friction, and a lot of stuff when you see like trailers or things now, it's the harmonic language has gotten lamer and lamer.
Yeah, it's all sound effects now.
Yeah, it's all sound effects. Yeah. So this, I have the growing pains in the chords. And then all the sounds and everything is kind of like stretching and distorted and all of this. And so this is kind of fun. And one of the big challenges working on something like this is my mix where the music is too loud. But is when somebody's whispering, which they do a lot in commercials, and there's no real pitch information. You can do a mix where you can hear the voice really well, or you can do a mix where the music is cool. Both at the same time is a little...
Right.
Tricky. Whispering is tricky. But yeah, so this is one of the projects I've done. This is very, very recent. This is a Stephen King project. Let me talk about it first because then it's more fun to watch.
Okay.
This is by Stephen King short stories called The Passenger, and there is kind of like there's a bend in the logic. There's something that is not right. And so I didn't want to write a normal score. So half of the music I composed, reversed, and then sent through Altiverb through the Mausoleum settings, but with no direct signal. So you basically just have this big hall reverberating with the score backwards. And so stuff like this, just like to kind of mind bendy kind of stuff. So this section is where the guy that gets picked on a lot for the first time kind of like comes out of his shell and he's beating somebody to death.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
So first thing that is kind of fun about this, I did the sound design for a commercial, and there was a cart in front of a supermarket and a watermelon fell off. And so I needed to sound design the watermelon. The exact watermelon sound is now when he does the final blow to the head in this.
Oh.
So this watermelon sound made it on 2 projects.
Right.
Pretty impressive. But what I did here is if you play the violin and you turn the bow around and you hit the string with wood, it's called colegno, and what you get is a very percussive sound with a little bit of pitch, but it's never 100% in tune, so it's annoying and kind of like weird. So I had a lot of people not in sync play colegno, so you have this kind of clattering kind of thing. Then I reversed that, so it goes like this. And then I used that and I wrote the fader like with every hit like this, and then ran it through a guitar amp. And that's what you hear.
Very, very interesting.
One thing that I also do here, which I like to do in film a lot, is have two different timelines at the same time. One thing that's always, like when you're in the box, you can be so perfectly on the grid. And I had to score a really difficult project about a very difficult topic. And I didn't want to be the person that is like writes a tearjerker kind of score under such a already dramatic topic, but I couldn't write anything safe. So one thing that I did for that was I wrote music that is relatively mellow, and then I hand played a wood block. But I played the wood block after I haven't listened to the piece for a while in its own timing. And then I play this at the same time. So the wood block is not in sync in any shape or form with the rest of the music, but it feels like a metronome. So it totally messes with your mind. And so one of the things that I do like for stuff like this is that it kind of starts together, and then this sound happens when it wants to happen, and it only comes back together at the very last hit. So when you watch this, and when you're in cinema, and when this is loud, you get this kind of like you get torn, like it's something is tearing at you, and only in the last moment with the last hit, all of these things come back together. So it's kind of like out of sync on purpose. I love choir music. And I'm not the most religious guy, but I was kind of happy when a church asked me to write something that feels like the whole humanity is singing at the same time. I got the budget to do a choir with 250 voices.
Amazing.
Yeah, total waste. At some point you don't hear the difference anymore, but it's kind of cool. And it's, when Logic updated to 1,000 tracks, that came just a month too late for me. Yeah. But so this is a project with 250 actual voices, and it's a German hymn, and it's really dark. And the video doesn't matter, but it's the sound of, I got to do classical music.
Nachdem Gott seinen Zorn aussendet. Gottes Zorn ist ein Schuss, der verhindert, dass böse Kräfte sich vervielfältigen.
Yeah, two soloists and 250 voice choir. They wanted that it sounds like it was performed in a church, which made it really difficult to produce because there's so much stuff moving around this.
Sure.
And so you can't push it all the way to sound like a trailer. But that was a fun project and a lot of editing, as you can imagine.
Where did you record it? Where did you get 250 people in a room?
In Berlin. It's in shifts.
I see.
It needed to be in shifts because they still wanted like somewhat sharp edges, and if you do orchestral recordings or choir recordings like this, if you do a full-on classical piece where everything kind of flows, it's not hip-hop tight. It's never hip-hop tight. Mm-hmm. And we needed to be able to go in there and be hip-hop tight, and in case the need would arise. And so it's a lot of microphones. I love the kind of like I just love choir and voices, and when I arrange pop songs, maybe this is a good transition. So this is a pop song, but the idea was that we wanted to place the artist as something kind of like different and unique. I also write like it's her voice is 50. It's not very loud in the mix, but I kind of write a choir arrangement of a voice like 50 times in the background.
In the end, I'll always want to be more than friends. I can't pretend, 'cause in the end I'll always want to be more
So that was a little goofy variety kind
Cool.
of.
Is that an American artist? Or?
Yeah, that video was out. It's at some point they pulled this, and then I did another video with her where I got to play guitar with a Muppet, which is like awesome. Like that was on my checklist. I like doing things like this. I also produced the music video, which is something I've done a couple of music videos.
Did you create that music video?
I did create that music video.
That's fantastic.
So because of my work in film, I'm connected with a lot of filmmakers. And one thing that if I don't score film, I think my talent is a kind of like storytelling through sound. So when I work with an artist, I can build a world around them that fits them, that fits who they really are. And that is a little quirky, interesting or something. And that extends to the music videos as well. I'm not holding a camera myself. I usually get a director, but I'm very involved to keep it on story, on point for the artist. So usually we decide on the concept and stuff, and then I have very good people to do this. And with this especially, color grading is vital and took forever with this one, as you can imagine.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, I've done one in downtown LA with like underwater shoot, drone up and down the building. And with one, I think the most gangster or LA thing that I've done here was we were filming the artist walking out of this high rise, and the drone was flying towards her. And this being like an indie video, we just quickly did that. And then the police pulled up, and our drone operator just hovered the drone above the police car until the light changed and the police drove on. And that's kind of like the most, okay. So this is underwater.
Could anyone come rescue me? Oh, could anyone come rescue me?
And so on.
It's great. Really good. So you co-wrote, produced the song.
Yeah.
Presumably play everything on it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's a guitar somewhere. The rest is in the box. But yeah, I just like the storytelling part of it, and I like the video, the song, everything. Her story, everything together creates something. And yeah, that's my thing. Storytelling with sound. So with show themes, you pitch, and in many cases you pitch for. In this particular case, there were 93 people on the pitch. So I won the pitch, and they were talking about like they need this, and this for like bumpers and all of this. And then it was about 2 weeks till premiere, and then somebody said, "Oh yeah, Nicki Minaj likes the song." Then they threw away my show theme, stuck a Nicki Minaj song under it, which didn't fit at all. But that's kind of like, as you know, that's kind of the industry. So this is this
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Who did the voices?
Insanely talented singer, rapper who can do anything from Luther Vandross to rap. And he is Naomi Campbell's fitness coach as well. Like he's a fitness coach to the stars kind of thing. So he was perfect for this. And I think he was here for 10 minutes.
Wow.
He's crazy. Yeah, he's really good. His name is Kevin Daniels. I don't know how he travels between like somewhere on the East Coast and here, but yeah, cool guy, cool singer. I've done a couple of his songs. We did a kind of barbershop quartet with him where he sings all the voices and all kinds of things. So he's a cool guy to work with.
There's a 421 here. What's this? What do you use this for?
So this is for writing, Basically, when I'm here with the singer, or when the universe is really in need for some pain when I sing myself. So the idea is that, like, for songwriting or something, that you can just pick it up and then the speakers can still be on, and nobody needs to wear headphones, and you can just jam. The idea is that I can, like, when inspiration hits, somebody can go to the piano and just play, just grab a guitar. And with this thing, you can just sing. I like when people sing in the proper mic straight away, because sometimes you get the first take. I worked on a song where the singer kind of like riffed at the end and got really aggressive right for the song. And she never captured that again in the vocal booth. And so I like when it's on there.
I've done countless records where the scratch vocal's the main vocal. And every day you hear somebody go, oh yeah, that was my first take, or the opposite, you know, that was like, we'd already comped in, I did one more go, quick one, and you know, all of these different stories. It's never exactly how you plan it. It's just, it happens the way it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, and I've seen singers get worse during, I've seen a singer that sang a song live 20 times. We played shows around, or she played shows. And then it was time to release that as a single, and she was struggling in the vocal booth. We had perfect recordings live with no cuts or anything. I've seen, like, vocals can be tricky. I had a case where a voice didn't want to be tuned. It just never worked. Anything you did didn't work. And then I had a tenor who was, for a classical singer, surprisingly off pitch, like far, 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 far. And at time he actually took even liberty with the notes, and I could tune it whichever way I wanted, and it always sounded right. It's kind of...
Right, I know. There's no rhyme or reason, is there? Well, thank you ever so much for showing us about. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
So, isn't this amazing? Lars makes a living, and 300...
Yeah, it's a little more now. 300 films and commercials. And I'm currently... Last project was the Stephen King thing that I showed you earlier. The current project is with Keke Palmer. It's an animation film with her voice. And before that, I mixed a Red Bull documentary, did an Intel commercial. This year, 2019, I got a really cool call where somebody said, hey, can you make James Earl Jones sound 50 again? Which was, that was cool. Yeah, so it's...
So I'm assuming that's for Star Wars?
No, that was not for Star Wars.
I thought that maybe they wanted to make him sound like a younger Darth Vader or something.
No, that would have been cool if it would have been for Star Wars. No, it was not for Star Wars, but I used it a lot to tease my Star Wars friends, like all the Star Wars fans.
Okay.
I know.
I'm sure.
I got a lot of mileage out of that. Right. But so it's a lot of different projects. It's a interesting album now, which will take most of my time till 1st of March. Then there might be a feature next. I don't know. We'll see.
Fantastic. Well, thanks ever so much for showing us about.
Thanks for coming.
Please leave a whole bunch of comments and questions below. And remember, there's nothing really stopping you when it comes to equipment from making great music.